Most injury and accident law firms have no idea who their customer is. And understandably so, I mean, how could you? Anybody at any time can get hurt, can get injured. So how can you really pinpoint them? There's really no demographic data that you can drill into because anybody can be impacted by these things. And that's really one of the core reasons why you struggle so much with marketing and advertising, because marketing relies on people. You need to be able to properly target people in order to reach them and communicate to them with messaging. And that's why so much of the accident and injury space is a shotgun approach. Billboards, radio, mass advertising, putting as much money as possible into digital ads just to reach as many people as possible and stay quote unquote top of mind. And I'm going to present to you something today that is going to change that for you. It's going to reduce the cost dramatically of your marketing expenses. It's going to increase the performance. And it's all about understanding who your target customer is, not necessarily from a psychographic or a demographic point of view, but who they are in terms of how they're going through the process of finding an injury and accident law firm from the time they get hurt to the time the case is resolved. And all of this is based on data that we have collected over the past 10 years of working with injury law firms. This process is really so critical in terms of allowing us to get such good results that we get for our clients in one of the most brutally competitive spaces on the internet. I've been doing marketing for 15 years, and I can tell you straight up, there is nothing more competitive than injury and accident marketing. And that's one of the reasons why I love it so much, because it's so damn hard. And it can be so expensive if you do it wrong. But if you know what you're doing, you can make a lot of money and really, really, really have explosive results with this. So we need to understand who, and we need to understand how they're going through the process of finding you. So I'm going to be presenting to you multiple different data points throughout this. Again, this is based on data. It's not based on opinion. It's not based on my thought. It's based on actual black and white, irrefutable data that we cannot debate. This is what I call the injury law firm selection process, accident law firm as well. There's 5 parts to this. This is the starting point. Part 2 is going to be the recall process. So after somebody gets hurt, the start here is the accident happens, right? This is when somebody gets hurt, the accident injury occurs. Then people go through the recall process, right? Thinking about who they want to hire. Then they go through the discovery process, then the selection process, and then the end is when the case is resolved, won, etc. So let's talk about the start here. So at the start of this, prospects generally do not contact a law firm immediately after they get hurt or injured. The reason being, there could be all sorts of reasons. They could be ashamed, right? If they're a construction worker, they don't want to be shunned or blacklisted or chastised, if you will, by their other employees by kind of like snitching out or going to the man or hiring a lawyer, if you will. There could just be a total lack of understanding about what's happening. There could be an expectation to others to cover the cost, insurance, employer. If you get hurt at work, you're probably sitting there thinking that your employer is going to cover it or the insurance is going to cover it, but welcome to America, they probably will not. Fear of judgment, like I said, losing job, toughness, lack of knowledge, etc. And then the final piece here that really kind of kicks off this process, data shows that friends and family actually play the largest role in convincing somebody to seek legal help or begin that process. Now, statute of limitations from the time of when somebody gets hurt to the time of when they can, go through the legal process is 2 years. So this process can take a long time, right? And a lot of what law firms are doing is they're running billboards, they're spending on top of mind, thinking that the recall process, which is the first step in this process. So after a friend or a family pushes the person to get help, or if that friend or family decides that they're going to actually seek the legal help on behalf of their loved one, this is when the recall process begins. And so many of you think that this is where you're getting your clients from. You think that you put up that super awesome billboard all up and down 95 and people were like, oh my God, I was driving down the highway 6 months ago and I saw the billboard, I remembered the number and I called them. I mean, it's like I'm being an ass, but like it's what a lot of you think. And this top of mind awareness, it's not nearly as impactful as you think it is, and it drives so few phone calls for you. Unless you're Morgan & Morgan and your brand is at a whole nother level. But we're talking about the 1% here. I'm talking to the 99% of other people watching this. Morgan & Morgan, if you're watching this, you can call me too. But the 99% of other people watching this, the recall is not where you're going to get your cases and leads from. So The recall process, once someone has decided to seek legal help, this entire process lasts less than 1 week. So statute of limitations is 2 years from the time that somebody gets hurt, but the actual process of finding a lawyer is less than 1 week. So it happens like that. You don't have a huge window to try and land these prospects, these clients. You have a very short, limited amount of time to get them in your ecosystem, to get them signed as a case. So in terms of the recall process, referrals primarily serve as a starting point. Prospects are aware that there are a lot of law firms to choose from, but recall of specific names is low. I was just making a joke about this, right? That, again, I live in Miami. So when I drive up and down 95 from Miami to Fort Lauderdale, it's a 20-mile stretch. There's probably 100 billboards for injury and accident law firms. I could not tell you a single name of them. I know that there's a lot, right? What this data point, this study shows is that people are aware that there's a lot of law firms to choose from, but they cannot recall the specific names. They can't. So do that with that data point what you will. Keep putting up your billboards. I'm not opposed to billboards. I like to poke fun at it a lot because, I would prefer you invested money in other things that are actually going to drive clients and not just inflate egos. But don't argue with the study. The data points show that the recall is very, very low, and that they know that there's law firms out there, but the recall of specific names is low. And if prospects had no referrals or top of mind firms, they turn to Google to begin their search. So again, the recall process here, as soon as somebody decides to get legal help, the first thing people usually do is ask for referrals. Now, in the injury and accident space, there's another data point. I'm not sure if I included it in here, but it says that 80% of cases come from the lower 50% of income brackets. So think about it this way. If you are in the lower 50% of income brackets, do you really have a base of referral to work off, right? Do you really know who to ask? Do you have people to ask? If you're a construction worker, or if you're hurt on the job, if you're in a car accident, whatever that looks like, do you have people that you can ask a lawyer to refer you to? The answer to that is probably no, right? So this recall process, it starts with referrals, but the reason why your referrals are so inconsistent and so few and far between is because it's not an industry where people get referrals. If you were a business lawyer, right, a corporate lawyer, or even a criminal defense lawyer, right, I always put myself in the shoes of the customer. If I were to be impacted with something I needed legal help with, I of course would ask my network first, especially if it was business, if it was, immigration related, if it was tax related, right? I would ask my network because I have a network. I've been a business owner for 15 years. I know a lot of people that are or criminal defense too. If I got in some big trouble, I would 100% be asking around for the best criminal defense lawyer that I would know. That's where referrals come from. But in the injury and accident space, most of your cases are not coming from referrals because it's not the type of law that comes from referrals. Where does it come from? If they don't have top of mind, they go to Google. They go to search first platforms, Google, YouTube, social, places that they can actually do their own research and search is where a lot of this is going to come from. So this is what kicks off the discovery process. So again, the recall process, very few people are actually going through this. They can't remember your billboard. They're going to ask for referrals. If they don't have referrals to ask for, if they don't know, then they go to Google, they go to search platforms. So prospects begin their search with sources at their easiest disposal. This is what the discovery process is all about. So Google is predominantly used to begin the process. Obviously, I don't think that's even a debatable point. That's probably where all of us would start, but YouTube is predominantly used for secondary searches and is viewed by respondents as highly effective. And then YouTube and Facebook are used to learn about firms after their initial discovery. So think about it this way, right? I get hurt, I get an accident 6 months ago. I'm like, nah, my knee is fine. The scaffolding falls on everybody. It's not a problem. And then, my wife is constantly on me about it because I can't pick up the kids. I can't play with them anymore. And she's like, we're getting a lawyer. We need to get you compensated because you can't do anything anymore. You can't walk. Do I know any lawyers? Do you know any lawyers? Has anybody been hurt like this to the job? I'm like, I'm not asking my employees for this. I don't want them to know. I don't want my coworkers to know. They're going to chastise me. So where does my wife go? Where do I go? We go to Google. Obviously, we begin our search there. But I've talked in other videos about how Google has gotten very saturated and it's very hard for a customer to decipher, right? I told this story in another video where I was talking about my brother, who unfortunately needs a family lawyer right now. And my mom is the one who's helping him out because he doesn't have the means to do it himself. And she was like, do you know any family lawyers? I'm in Florida, he's in Texas. So I'm like, no, I don't. You need to find somebody in Texas. And she was like, well, I searched Google and I couldn't really find anything. I'm like, you couldn't find anything in Google? Like there's a million results in Google. Like every single website that you'd want to talk to is there. She's like, yeah, but like, how do I pick? Like, how do I know? And so Google is great for beginning the process. And if you're in the first result, especially in the injury and accident space, I was talking about family law, that stuff doesn't really matter as much. Injury and accident, people call the first one, especially because they don't really know. And there's another interesting data point that I don't have in here. I don't want to get too technical with you guys, but we do paid search campaigns for clients, especially in the injury and accident space. Obviously, the primary thing that we target is car accident lawyer near me, car accident lawyer in Miami, wherever our client is located. But what we'll also do is we'll open it up to general lawyer terms for our clients that have bigger budgets and that are more aggressive, because most people don't know. Most people are just searching for lawyer near me, and they don't know that there is a difference between injury. They don't even know that these pockets of law exist, right? So the point I'm making is that Google is a great place for starting point. And if you can get the first result in Google with ad or organic, you're going to print money. You're just going to print money, especially if you have a good intake that you can close them on the phone, get them to sign a document, and then whatnot. But what we're seeing a lot more of is YouTube and also Facebook coming up as secondary platforms, because Google is so hard to decipher, because it's a little bit overwhelming as a customer, right? You're searching, you can't find it. So you go to YouTube. Why? Because YouTube, you can see people's faces. You can get a sense for their vibe, their personality, their knowledge base, right? I am not here in the studio renting this out in the middle of a Tuesday for my health. Doing this because it's good for my business, because video is such an impactful thing for me to get more clients. And it's the same thing for you. It's the exact same thing. Don't think it's different, right? So YouTube is incredibly important because YouTube is also a search platform. YouTube is actually the second most used search engine on the planet behind Google, which YouTube is also owned by Google. So they're interrelated. They talk to each other. So kind of builds that flywheel that we talked about in the other video. So creating video is one of the best ways to differentiate yourselves from the competition during the discovery process, right? So next up is a selection process. So they've been hurt. They couldn't think of anybody. They went through the discovery process of search first platforms, right? Google, YouTube, and then Facebook as well too. We'll talk a little bit more about this, but Facebook is really good, really for remarketing. So remarketing means if somebody's been to your website, if they've seen your content before, then we can serve them ads on Facebook and Instagram to kind of bring them back into the process. So that also takes place during the selection process. So the discovery process is the process of looking for a law firm, right? The selection process is the actual decision-making part here. So prospects began the search with sources at their easiest disposal. They ask friends, they search Google, YouTube, etc. Now, when using the internet, right, selecting, prospects choose law firms from the top of search results. I know, it's like groundbreaking information, right? But I'm telling you, I've been through this so many times before. I've been doing this for a very long time, and it almost breaks my heart as a marketer how overly simplified it is for injury and accident law firms that if you have the top spot, you're going to make money. And save it, and video, and everything marketing. That's it. If you have the top spot, ad or organic, you're going to get leads and you're going to control the rest of the market. Because you have that top spot and it's a bad lead, you just kick it away. And what happens is they go to the next one. So if you're in the second place, you're just naturally getting cascaded down bad leads. So you got to get that top spot. So it's not rocket science, right? Especially if somebody in this space, you guys think brand matters so much. It doesn't. It doesn't. The primary thing studies show that injury and accident clients care about is how much is my case worth. They don't care about your billboards. They don't care about anything else. They care about themselves. This is true in all marketing, right? I'm not getting up here in this video. You haven't heard me talk about me once in this video, have you? Because you don't care about me. Who do you care about? You care about yourself. That's what marketing is all about. If you're constantly talking about me, billboards, radio, look at us, people don't care about that. They care about themselves. They've been hurt. They want to be compensated for it. They want to talk to a lawyer, right? It's about them. It's not about you. And if you can get in the top spot and you can get somebody on the phone and have a conversation with them, end game, period. That's it, right? Then we go into the intake process. That's different here. So if you're on the top, right, you're going to write your own checks. That's really it. Data shows that, not just me. I know you know it too. So next up here though, is that reviews and reputation play a key role in deciding which lawyer to hire. For whatever reason, I get pushback when I talk to my law firm clients all the time about reviews. They're like, oh, reviews don't matter. Nobody looks. I'm like, they do. They do look at them. Not only from a decision-making process, but also from a ranking process. If you want to rank higher in Google, the more reviews you have, the better. Google sees it as a positive vote, basically, for your law firm in a very competitive space. Google doesn't want to show some law firm in their top results. Google's one main job is to provide the best possible experience to searchers. That's their main job. Because if they can do that, then they can sell ads. And if they can sell ads, they're going to keep their $1 trillion business afloat. But if they can't provide a good experience, which means if they recommend bad websites, bad businesses, you're going to go elsewhere. And if you go elsewhere, they lose money. So they don't want to show crap businesses, right? So positive reviews are just one of the many ways that they see that. So it helps with the conversion process when people are like deciding between firms and they're reading reviews or looking at videos, right? These are the secondary things that help with the selection process, but also helps with getting more exposure, right? It's all part of that flywheel that we talked about in the other video. So the first impression with law firm is viewed as critical deciding which firm to hire. So if you haven't seen it, I have another video on this channel that's about the law firm flywheel that talks about acquisition, intake, and client services. So this refers to intake, right? If your intake is not on point, right? It doesn't matter if you have that first spot. If you're not answering phone calls, if you don't understand why they're calling and you're not giving them the right information, if you're just writing down their information like a call answering service, like forget about it. Close up your business. You're not going to make it, right? It's not going to work. You cannot take a phone call and just like take their information and be like, yeah, we'll call you, but like I'm going to pass this to the attorney and we'll call you back. No, that person's gone. They're going to the next result and they're calling them, right? So like that first touch point is so important. And keep in mind, they're calling you for two reasons. One, they want to know how much their case is worth, and two, they want to try and speak to an attorney. So obviously, they're not going to be able to speak to an attorney on the first call, but you need to understand how to massage that conversation. You need to understand how to connect them with an attorney that does have a case, right? They want to talk to an attorney now. And if they have a case, you cannot let them get off the phone. You cannot let them get off the phone. You cannot let them get off the phone, because if they do, they're going to your competitor. They're probably going to Morgan & Morgan, and you're just going to pay for his yacht. So now, after they go through the selection process and they have selected the law firm that they want, this is when the case is closed, the case is resolved, you make them their money, whatever that looks like. So prospects move on after their case is resolved. So respondents from private, this is so interesting. Respondents from a private survey could not recall the names of the firms that they worked with. I want you to think about that for a second. They knew the lawyer that they worked with, right, by name and whatever, but they didn't know the name of the law firm. And this just goes all the way back to the beginning. I'm always, people get mad at me in the comments when I'm advertising because I'm always picking on law firms that run billboards. But like, you think people can't recall your name during the recall process when they're trying to think of a law firm to work with, but they can't even remember the name of your law firm after they worked with you, after you made them money. They still can't remember the name of your law firm. So think about that for a second. Next time you want to spend $100 grand a month on billboards and not put it in digital tactics, it's not really doing as much as you think, right? Again, it's satisfying your ego. It's not satisfying your bank account. In fact, it's taken from it. So keep that in mind next time you want to run some billboards. So prospects are almost always satisfied with their decision to seek legal help. Just kind of ties a bow on this, right? Like, you're doing a good service for people. You're not twisting their arm to do something they don't want to do, especially in the injury and accident space. Sometimes these people need a push because of the circumstances around them, because of the ecosystem that they're in, because of all these different things. So this is the entire injury law firm selection process. And this is just a timeline here at the bottom. It can take up to 2 years for this beginning part, but as soon as they decide, that recall to selection process takes less than 1 week. Keep that in mind. It takes less than 1 week. And that's it. I mean, this information, I'm telling you, will change the course of your marketing if you know how to do it. Because again, this is not demographic data. I'm not up here saying, hey, your target audience who gets into car accidents are 25 to 35-year-old white males with a certain income bracket who like to listen to this radio station. That's not marketing demographics and psychographics. A lot of people will have you think about a customer avatar, and that's probably why you haven't been able to do this, but this is based on data. This is not based on my opinion. Obviously, my opinion is in here because I've been doing this for so long and I've seen this happening in action, and I've been able to piece this together into a very digestible format here. But I'm telling you, this right here helps you to understand what you should be doing for marketing. So the next video that I have coming up is going to show you how to take this information and layer it on top of a marketing funnel, which will then help you to select the tactics that you need. So this is the who. The next video, we're going to talk about the what. And as always, if you have any questions, please leave it in the comments below. There's also a link to my calendar, my personal calendar. You can book a call to talk with me to go through your marketing, to talk about your law firm, and to see if we can have any sort of impact in helping you generate more leads. If not, like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.